Good afternoon. My name is Diego Alejandro Jimenez Ramirez. Today I am going to explain my exercise 10 of the subject of contemporary war. Also, in today's presentation, I am going to talk about the end of World War II, referring to the victorious nations of the new world political order. The- Also, I'm going to talk about the bipolarity of the international relationship between the United States and the Soviet Union, the D-Day, and some important dates, and also what's happened to the United States and Japan after war. Let's start. First of all, the World War II ended on the date of May 8th of 1945. A new ideological hostility was developing in Europe between the capitalist West and the communist East. The following establishment of German republics, it became evident that Europe was trapped and divided between two great spheres of influence. On one side, the Western powers, mainly by the United States, and the communist Soviet power on the other hand. The Soviet bolstered its position following the war, establishing puppet governments in countries such as Poland, Romania, Hungary, and Bulgaria. In this new creation of blocks quickly caught the attention of the Western leaders. They were concerned that the Soviet Union had effectively control of practically the entire eastern of half Europe. So, the United States responds by developing the Marshall Plan and the financing plan to help the Western European nations rebuilding and recover economic stability. The Marshall Plan handed over a total of $70 billion to the European cause, making it possible to rebuild and establish a free market economy, capitalism, favored by the interests of the United States. On April 4 of 1949, the North Atlantic Treaty Organization was established. NATO. The Communist bloc responded with the creation of their own military alliance, with the Warsaw Pact, signed in 1955. This agreement was signed by the Soviet Union, Poland, East Germany, Hungary, Romania, Bulgaria, and Albania. As you can see, by the 1950s, the world found itself spiritually polarized into large blocks. The history of the following decades will be defined by this rivalry. Okay, now, the D-Day. During World War II, the Battle of Normandy, which lasted from June 1944 to August of the same year, resulted in the Allied liberation of Western Europe from Nazi Germany's control. Also known as the D-Day, when some 156,000 American, British, and Canadian forces landed on 5 beaches along a 50-mile stretch of the heavier fronting coast of France's Norman region. The invasion was one of the largest and visionary military assaults in the history, and required extensive planning. By dawn on June 6, thousands of paratroopers and glider troops were already on the ground behind the enemy lines, securing bridges and exit roads. The ambitious invasion began at 6:30 a.m. The British and Canadians overcame light opposition to capture beaches containing Gold, Juno, and Sword, as did the Americans at Utah Beach. USA's forces faced heavily resistance at Oklahoma Beach, where there were over 2,000 Americans casualty. However, by the day's end, approximately 156,000 Allied troops had successfully stormed Normandy's beaches. According to some estimates, more than 4,000 Allied troops lost their lives in the D-Day invasion, with thousands more than wounded or missing less than a week later. A week later, on June 11, the beaches were fully secured and over 326,000 troops, more than 15,000 vehicles, and some 100,000 tons of equipment had landed at the Normandy for their part. The Germans suffered from the confusion in their ranks and the attempted of celebrate Commander Romans, who was way on leave. At first, Hitler believed in the invasion was a feint designed to distract the Germans from a coming attack north of the Sabine River. Refused to release Navy Division to join the counterattack, reinforcements had to be called from further Allied, causing delays. He also justified in calling for armored division to help in the defense. Moreover, the Germans were hampered by heavily Allied air support, which took out many key bridges and forced the Germans to take long detours as well as efficient Allied naval support, which helped protect advancing Allied troops. The post-war world also presented Americans with a number of problems and issues. Flushed with their success against Germany and Japan in 1945, most Americans initially viewed their place in the post-war world with optimism and confidence. But within 2 years of the end of the war, new challenges and perceived threats has arisen to erode the confidence. By 1948, a new form of international tension had emerged: Cold War, between the United States and its allies and the Soviet Union and its allies. In the next 20 years, the Cold War spawned many tensions between the two superpowers abroad and fear of the communist subversion gripped domestic at home. After the defeat of Japan in the World War II, the United States led the Allies in the occupation of rehabilitation of Japan state. Between 1945 and 1952, the USA's occupied forces led by the General Douglas A. MacArthur enacted widespread military, political, economic, and social reforms in September of 1944. In September of 1994, the General Douglas MacArthur took charge the supremacy command of Allied powers and began the work of rebuilding Japan. Also, the Great Britain, the Soviet Union, and the Republic of China had an advisory role as a part of the Allied Council. MacArthur had the final authority to make all decisions. The occupation of Japan can be divided into three phases: the initial effort to punish and reform Japan, the work of reviving the Japanese economies, and the conclusion of a formal peace and treaty and alliance. The first phase rode from the end of the war in 1945 through 1947, involved the most fundamental changes from the Japanese government and society. The Allies punished Japan for its past militarism and expansion by converting war crimes trials in Tokyo. At the same time, SCAPs dismantled the Japan army and banned from military officers from taking role of political leaderships in the new government. In the communique file, SCAP introduced land reforms designed to dignify the minority tenant farmers and reduce the power of the rich landowners, many of whom had advocated for war and support Japanese expansion in 90 stories. MacArthur also tried to break up the larger Japanese business conglomerates or seisabuts as part of the effort to transform the economy into a free market capitalist system. In 1947, Allies advisor essentially directed a new constitution to Japan's leader. Some of the most profound changes in the document includes downgrading the emperor's status to that of the figure without political control and placing more power in the parliament system, promoting greater rights and privileges of women, and renouncing the right to wage war, which involved eliminates all non-defensive armed force. Now I'm going to talk about the interview that I realized to a person about the capitalism and the communism. The question is gonna be what the person think about the capitalism and the communism. The person that I'm interviewed was my maternal uncle named Carlos Eduardo Perez Hernandez, that is 42 years old. First of all, my uncle talked me about that he thinks that the capitalism was a curious idea that the person doesn't know how to develop, and by this reason the idea was getting lost and becoming like a fascism. Also, he told me about that, talking about the communism, that communism look better on paper, but that it could never be destroyed as people wanted to end up being a disaster, since the idea may be good, but is not very economical feasible thinking about. Finally, to end this presentation, I will give my opinion about the World War II. As we know, the war only makes that the person have fear, have bad situations, and provocate deaths and economical tensions, etc. But thanks to the war, we can say that we lived the form what we live today, because the humans learn about his errors and see that the war doesn't give anything positive to the states and all the person in the world. So it is known by all that it's very improbable that exists a World War III by this, and also because we have the ONU. So I like to say that the wars were a bad event, but thanks to them we can live the form that we live nowadays. Thanks you.